good evening, and welcome to our Wednesday night update on this rather chilly January day. It would sure be nice if we could go back and have a few more days like we had yesterday. Those low 40s felt really good, and I'm looking forward to being in more of those in just a short time. A week from tonight, I'll be hopping on a plane to Belfast to be with my family for a couple of weeks and to attend the Four Corners Festival. So I'm looking forward to doing that. I will miss you while I'm gone, but I will be here next Wednesday night. I'll be going to the airport straight from our Wednesday night update next week. Let's take a look and see who's joined us tonight. Normally I start at the top, so I think I'll start at the bottom tonight. Meg, good evening and welcome. We're glad to have you joining us tonight. Len, yes, it is way too cold to be out today, but we also still had to get out there. Some of us didn't have a choice to just sit around the house all day. And a very good evening to Dale. Glad to have you with us tonight, too. And to Rich and Kathy, we are so delighted to have you guys live with us in person this evening. And FPC WBL Kids, Shara, a very good evening to you as well. Masks are obviously still required here in the building for in-person worship or other in-person events. I hope we're doing all that we can right now to still mask up and do what we can to try to protect others, because this life is not about ourselves. So we really do want to make sure that we're doing what we can to play our part in eliminating COVID and the risk of COVID from not only our own lives, but from potentially spreading it to others as well. There is a new member informational meeting coming up this Sunday following worship, and that will be in the Shalom Room downstairs from where I'm sitting tonight. It's a great time to come and ask questions about who we are as a church, as well as learn a little bit about what it means to be a member of this congregation. Then also last Sunday, our kids packed some care kits for the homeless. And if you would like to grab one of those and place it in your car so that if you're driving by an intersection and you see somebody there holding a sign with some needs, you can wind down your window and give it to them. And those kits are available in the Red Hall. And as I understand it, they're going to be making some more of those this coming Sunday as well. Few prayer requests that we've had coming in. I think I mentioned last week that Sue Hunt's brother, Bill Cleary, has now entered hospice care. He made the tough decision to leave the hospital. The chemotherapy treatments weren't working for him anymore, and so he made the tough decision to go home to be around family during this last period of his life. So prayers for Bill. I understand he is resting comfortably at the moment and is not in any, or at least not in much discomfort or pain, but prayers are very much with the family at this time. Peggy Roski's friend Chris has been diagnosed with a lung infection and is being transferred to a hospital where she can undergo another procedure and continue treatment. So definitely want to keep Chris in prayer. Bill Fairman. Bill is still in Encore under hospice care. Bill is holding on at the moment, and we definitely want to keep Bill and his wife Marilyn and daughter Michelle and daughter Sharon in prayer at this time. And the Enfer family are in Cameroon right now. We did hear from Eric that they're going to be staying in the city. They don't want to risk going out to the rural village where his family is from and where they sponsor a school at because there's just too much risk of violence in some of those rural English-speaking areas at the moment. So he has family that are trying to come visit him in the city. So let's make sure we keep the Enfer family in prayer as they travel as well. Folks, last week I mentioned this book to you, The Sound of Life's Unspeakable Beauty. I read a piece from the foreword by Makoto Fujimura. Over the last week, I have been reading this book. And sometimes when I read a book, I find that it speaks to me. Other times when I read a book, I find that I'm just reading it and learning something from it. There are other times when I read a book and I find that I am touched by it or moved by the story that it contains. This particular book is one of those few books that I found that sings to me, that it spoke and sang into the very heart of my being. It's a book I think that I'm going to revisit over and over again. The pages are so beautiful in this book that I didn't actually want to mark them up. So I read it without making any marks in it. Then I went back a second time and made some light pencil marks on some of the pieces that I wanted to take careful note of. And I will no doubt visit again and again. It's the story of Martin Schlesky. When I say it's a story, he wrote the book. He's the author. It's not really his life story, but it includes his story and what it means for him to be a luthier, a violin maker. And he walks us through the very artful, skillful ways in which they craft the wood, listening for particular tones in the wood, trying to figure out exactly where to place the bridge and where to cut the holes in the wood, and shaping it and listening to the tones as he goes. And he ties all of this back into life and into theology. He's a skilled theologian as well. But he does tell a story in this book. It's about a friend of his. And it says this. He says, "A violinist whom I knew well told me that he usually uses his train commutes between concerts to practice. Most of the time he sits in the family area because it is a little more spacious. If he's not alone, he asks the other passengers if it would disturb them if he were to play the violin. Most of the time they say no, quite the contrary, and they listen attentively. They are unaware of who this virtuoso is or that he is playing a Stradivarius. On one such trip, the train made an emergency stop. Luckily, he was not playing at the time, but sitting in the main cabin of the express train with many other passengers. An announcement followed. Due to personal injury, the trip will be delayed. People complained, fumbled through their bags for their cell phones, impatiently made calls, informed business partners that meetings would have to be postponed, etc. The violinist was shaken up. Someone had jumped in front of the train, and these passengers viewed it merely as an inconvenient interruption of their daily activities. After a few moments, Ingolf stood up, got out his violin, introduced himself, and addressed the passengers. He said that he was dismayed that a person whom he didn't even know, whose life had apparently been filled with so much sadness and despair, had lost his life in this way. He announced that he would like to play the first movement of Beethoven Violin Concerto in his memory. Then he put his bow on the string and filled time and space with the violin's sound. He transformed the busy environment of the commuter train into a concert hall. I'm sure that a space of holy admonition and thoughtfulness opened up. This is so necessary for our times." It's funny how we get so caught up in our own lives that we forget about what's going on around us. That even in a tragedy like that on the train, where somebody stepped in front of it, people were concerned more about their meetings they were going to miss, the delays that they were going to have, and the inconvenience it was to their own life. Until someone stepped in and produced some beautiful music and filled that space with a sense of holy awe. You know, in Philippians, the Apostle Paul writes this: "Don't be jealous or proud, but be humble and consider others more important than yourselves. Care about them as much as you care about yourselves." That's the translation from the contemporary English version. And it comes right before that beautiful hymn where, when Christ came, Christ humbled himself to the point of death on the cross. but it's a reminder that we need to care about others as much as we care about ourselves. We need to love our neighbors as we love ourselves. For our love of neighbor is a sign and a symbol of how much we love God. Rabbi Israel Salanter said back in the 1800s that your neighbor's material needs is your spiritual concern. That's right. The material needs of those around us, those who are hurting, those who are in pain, that's our spiritual concern. It is spiritual to take care of one another's needs, to lift up and step into moments, just like that violinist did in the story, to create a sense of God's presence, a sense of holiness. So as we leave here tonight and head our ways before we come back again on Sunday, I hope you're able to find a space and a place this week that you can step into and bring a sense of God's presence and God's holiness. Have a great rest of the week, and I will see you on Sunday. God bless you all.